Good morning. It's Robert Woodgate here with VIP videos from Famil Club. My guest today is Darryl Lovegrove, and he will introduce himself and give you a background on what he's doing. He's well known throughout the industry as a corporate entertainer and speaker. I've seen him perform on a number of occasions in the past with the Three Waiters and several other shows with his daughter and many other engagements, gigs, whatever you like. Darryl, how are you today?
Very well, Robert, and a big hi to all the Famil Club listeners.
Thank you. Can you just give us a background on what's been happening over the last 20 years?
Well, look, most of your listeners would probably have heard of the Three Waiters. Most of you have probably seen at least once, if not some of you 5 or 10 times, if you're all involved in the events industry. And it's an amazing story. Started in the late 90s, and then we took it to America, the UK in 2000, and the United States in 2001. And it evolved, and it quickly exploded and became the most booked corporate entertainment act in the world. And by the time I sold out in 2009, right in the middle of, the beginning of the GFC, really, we'd performed 9,000 shows. And that was about 10 years ago. And since then, it's gone on to, I believe, it's now performed about 14,000 shows, been seen in 90 countries, and it's really a phenomenal story. One that I tell a little bit about when I'm speak at conferences. I'm invited to speak at a lot of conferences, especially as an opening or closing speaker, because of the, I suppose, pretty fascinating story I have to tell with my history of the Three Waiters, and also afterwards the last 10 years, which have been a very different landscape that we've all had to live in and work in. So the story is very much about that incredible 11 years I had with it, building up all over the world, building this global brand, selling out, and then starting Lovegrove Entertainment, developing new shows, putting it out to a marketplace which had changed dramatically since the GFC, and of course coming today with coronavirus. And since the days of the Three Waiters, I've become very well-known MC. I MC a lot of big events, big A-list charity events, awards nights, because obviously I've got that I suppose, added thing where not only could I charm you as an MC, but I can also entertain you. I've got a background in musical theatre and opera, and I'm able to incorporate that stuff, which is why a lot of event planners love me. I'm sort of like a great 2-in-1 package. So yeah, that's what it's been keeping me going for the last 20, 25 years, is the world of corporate entertainment. And more recently, obviously, as a keynote speaker and an MC as well. Yeah, been amazing trip, amazing story.
Yeah, I basically had a look at the industry, and I can't keep up with the changes because, I mean, just today we've seen that Virgin has crashed. That's going to change the whole demographic. Huge. Yeah, so
just to give you your listeners an idea, just when you hear a story like Virgin crashing, instantly I think, okay, there goes all that's going to cost me, in the sense that I'm going to have a lot of interstate events. They're going to want one of me or one of my products, but then they have to put the airfares on top of my fee that I would charge for an act or myself. And when Virgin was viable, it was highly competitive. It wasn't a lot to fly 3 or 4 guys to Adelaide, to Melbourne, to Perth, whatever. I fear now that will go up at least 50%. And that's going to make the difference with a lot of people putting on events where it just becomes prohibitive and we lose the gig. And that's where it really changes the whole game.
Yeah, I agree, because I think with the airfare situation, they're going to probably reduce the number of seats on the flights. And we might get better service, like business class for everybody, but it'll be at additional cost. We'll be able to take a bit more luggage on board, but again, it's going to be at additional cost. It's just going to change the whole setup.
Mm.
Qantas basically will be able to charge whatever they like to fly you to Perth, and it'll
Yep.
be in the thousands rather than the hundreds.
I'm afraid so. And that instantly makes it, it's a game changer for people who have only got a set amount in their budget for entertainment. I'm in the difficult world of being very much a discretionary spend. And I've always been aware of that. As long as the economy is humming and it's great, then that's when obviously my type of business thrives. But at this time of year, I'm back in the world I was when the GFC hit very hard, where all of a sudden lots of belt tightening and decision making depending on budget restraints. And that's no fun for me. So I have to find ways of, unfortunately, I have to find acts which will be more affordable, more mobile, and which don't need all the extra flights and accommodation so much. So that's going to be important.
Yeah, that certainly will change how things move forward. What have you got plans for online conferencing, speaking, MCing even? Is that something?
Well, I'm yet to see that. I know what you're saying. I'm an eternal optimist, always have been. I wake up every day after a bad day thinking that maybe we can turn things around today. And I can't see, what do you call it, Robert, when this idea of, homograms or whatever you call it, where
3D holograms.
The speaker will be at home and he can set up a system where he can be seen on a stage in some conference or some, I look at that, and I know Darryl Beaumont's doing that big time with Business Blueprint at the moment, and he's about to, I think, do very much a virtual conference online, because if anyone's interested in business education group, Business Blueprint is the premier education group run by an extraordinary guy called Darryl Beaumont, and I'm a member of that group, and you don't get any more cutting edge than what he's able to do with Business Blueprint. And his conferences are phenomenal, but they're phenomenal because everyone gets together in a room and sees the best speakers in Australia, and he brings people from overseas as well, and you just have the most amazing experience. Well, now he knows he can't do that for a few months, but instead of sort of waiting around until things improve, he's gone full into the online conference, a virtual conference, if you will.
Yeah.
So it'll be very interesting to see what he does there. That will have to be it. And I think people will realize that as zany, I'd like to think anyway, people as zany and cool and new as it is, it will, I think, pretty soon, it'll have its run by, I think, the end of the year. Because you're going to see this, but for sure, people still have to have conferences. People still have to bring people together and look at new ideas and how they're going to drive business. And bringing people together in a conference style situation is the way to do that. But I think by the end of the year, people will be dying for 2021 to catch up again with people in the flesh and go to a resort, go to some place. And I think next year you're going to see a lot of people dying to get back to the ways of connection, because connection is incredibly important. And as cool as this is, here I am having a conversation with you, and you're comfortable in your lounge, and I'm comfortable in my dining room here. It doesn't come anywhere close if you or I were sat down in a cafe and have coffee together. Shake your hand, we really talk stuff, and it's just superior. This is fantastic, and it will be zany and cool for a while, but I think that by 2021, there will be a return to connection. I think the world may even find that a return to actual real connection they're learning now from isolation might come back as well, because I think there's overload with technology, and that yes, there's more technology more and more, but it's not necessarily improving anything or making us any happier. It's just a lot of techno stuff going on, which titillates us for a while, it interests us, and we follow it, and we embrace it, and we see what works for us. But at the end of the day, it's going to become, I think, like a situation where, trade shows, Robert, all those through the 90s and the zeros, trade shows were everything. My goodness, the three waiters, when we took it to the world, we exhibited throughout the UK, throughout the United States. I've been to many trade shows, and
I saw the
There was
free
nothing
waiters.
like there's nothing like people coming up to you at the booth, even if they knew you. And so many people, it became an exercise in the end of just brand maintenance, because people say, hey, Daz, how you doing? And we'd meet them and have a chat and how they're getting along and where we're going with the three waiters and all that sort of stuff. That stuff is gold. You know, really connecting, maybe even saying, hey, let's have a coffee together, you know, and whatever. Trade shows were great, that one-on-one. And then things got more sophisticated. Trade shows in the events industry has become less and less people were attending. And there was a movement away from it because of technology. People didn't necessarily want to take your DVD, whatever you had from your trade booth, when you could just give them the URL. You know, they said, just give me a pamphlet. I don't need to know about it. I'll look at you, what you are, go back to my office, look at your promo video, and everything became about that. And that was a hard sell for us, because in those days of the 90s, I think the human connection was far more powerful for us than a fantastic promo video. People met Mark Bradley, my former business partner, and he's the sole CEO of the Three Waiters. And, you know, people got to know Mark and myself very well. And they came to know us, trust us. There was a relationship that was just completely gold. People we still have very strong relationships with today. And that can, with a whole new generation of people coming through, people who had high school at our height, who are now in their late 20s and late 30s, they're the trade show, so they don't know who the hell I am. I'm just another picture of a person in LinkedIn, like thousands of others, or Facebook, and you have to get into my profile to learn out what my history was. Whereas everybody who was around in those days knows me from connecting with me, from having a beer with me, being at a show with me and hanging around. Whereas the younger generation, they almost like, you know, I remember the last 5-10 years saying, hey, do you want to catch up for a beer and learn all about the product? They're like, no, just see the URL, I'm cool. You know, they don't even want to connect. That's not their world. And their world is this. And it's, no, I just need to do this. Boom, 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 boom. Yep, fine. You turn up, do the gig, make everyone happy, go home. And they don't realize that there was a time the events industry was far more fun than that. And it was all about connection. It was all about enjoying the fact that we're in this events world together. Events world is so great. People don't know how great and fun it was. And I miss those glory days of what I call just human connection, the kind of thing that you can't have, that doesn't exist anymore. I'd like to see it. I'd like to see it.
Years ago, we made relationships before we made sales, and then more recently, we're going back to that and told, make relationships on social media. Don't try selling anything. And in the middle somewhere, we lost track. Yeah.
That's right.
I was interested because the last time I saw the Three Waiters was at a trade show that you mentioned down at AIM in Melbourne at the banquet after the trade event. So I still think that's one of the highlight events that I saw, because I really did get tricked, like most people. Didn't expect Three Waiters to be serving the food to us and start an argument with each other. So yeah,
that's right.
A brilliant concept, gone worldwide. Now we're looking at what we can do in the future and how we're going to create crowds that will pay the same sort of dollars, excuse me, to get the same performance, because as you say, with airfares going up, with costs going up, with you may have to go overseas for the next 2 years and still have a 14-day quarantine when you come back.
Yeah, do you think so? I think America's the one that really is going to dictate all that, because look, New Zealand and Australia, I think we have got ahead of the game, and I think if we carry on with this a little bit longer, so we make sure there isn't a second wave, and the second wave is very important. We're seeing that with Singapore right now. Singapore, we looked at Singapore only a month ago and said, "Wow, boy, they totally got their act together. How brilliant!" Now we're hearing there's a turn up again because I don't know what they did, but maybe they just didn't, put the brakes on for long enough. And so we do have to put our brakes on for just a little bit longer. And we're seeing what Jacinda Ardern's done in New Zealand is quite remarkable. Whilst 67, I think 71 this morning is 71 too many, it's still a huge reduction in per million of deaths in Australia compared to Europe and America. So I think that we're going to be ready for business before the United States is, and that's the problem. Is that the United States always leads the way, and you have to have the United States. What I've learned, you have to really have the United States in top gear for the rest of the world to churn over nicely. And so I worry about that. I worry about the United States. They're just going to be taking a long time before you're going to be allowed to fly to the States, or they're going to be able to come down here again.
Yes, Darryl, thanks for chatting to me for a little over half an hour. It's been fabulous to catch up with you. This will be displayed on the Famil Club website, and of course I shall pass on any inquiries that come through from meeting and event planners that need an MC, an entertainer, a producer, or just somebody to sing them a lullaby.
Oh, look, I love to sing your lullaby. Maybe just give me a call, come in, and we can have a isolation coffee. I'll sit at one end of the desk, you sit at the other. We'll have a chat, and we'll talk about what hopefully we can do for a future event that you might be planning. And also look out for a book. I'm coming up with a book at the end of the year. It's going to be all about the events industry and lots of fantastic fun stories, and also putting a CD out a little bit later as well.
Look forward to seeing that. I shall turn the recording off now.